I usually try to check in with at least one of my friends to find out what the nightscape has been like. And this morning I phoned my Erin and said, how are your dreams lately? And she hers have been pretty wild. And then in my dream last night, I got kidnapped to do a peyote ceremony. And people that know me know you would not have to kidnap me. I'd easily and willfully go unless your intentions were bad, and then no, I wouldn't go. But I'm thinking that it's could be about the fear of the masculine energy taking over, because peyote is the father medicine, ayahuasca is the mother, right? And I just think that's really interesting. And I think a lot of us are sitting with a lot of, please God, don't let the world implode right now. And then I'm also seeing things like this over my bed. And I still close my eyes hard and open them thinking that I'm not actually seeing things like this, but I am. And I've been seeing shit for a long time, and I still have a hard time coming to grips with the fact that I can see stuff. I still go, oh, I can't possibly be seeing that. And then in the center of this, it was kind of like the resonance of a speaker, when you're playing your bass loud. Like, it was like really trying to make a point to me. Like, you're all of you, whether you're aware or not, all of humanity are seeing things, and our logical mind is constantly in the way of that. And I can't believe, for somebody who has had as many experiences as I am, that I'm still so skeptical. I'm still absolutely skeptical. I was on the treadmill a few nights ago because my son has me on a really intense, horrible routine, and right behind, like, the lights were off. I like to kind of do it at around 8 or 9 at night, sometimes in the day, but the lights were off except for this one. And our basement, we live in an old house, and there's spirits in here that are pretty active all the time. But when I was giving her on the treadmill, and all of a sudden I felt this presence right behind me, and it was strong enough of a presence that it felt like my husband had come up behind me. And I know that he wouldn't have come down because hockey was on. There's no way in hell he was going to leave that hockey game. And so I turned and nothing was there, and I turned again and nothing was there. And I was so scared that I had to stop the treadmill and go and plug in a big light. And then it was like, bright light everywhere. And I was doing it to then. And it took me a full day to realize that was the raccoon medicine man, one of my spirit guides. And he's been totally helping me. But yet I'm still terrified of the help. I just think this is so funny. That somebody who has had, I don't think that it's atypical for spirit heads to still go, well, this shit isn't real. And it's more real than anything. And that's the thing. Like, his presence was so strong and right behind me, and I'm like, wow. But it was terrifying at the same time. I was like, oh, it must be some bad spirit. I better clean this house, get the hell out of my house or whatever. And then I realized, oh my God, I was so ignorant to one of the most beautiful spirit guides I've ever had. So I'm going to start the Feng Shui of the Soul reading at the Bagua, or at the health part of the Bagua, and it's Manjushri. And honestly, I'm pretty certain that this image has come up. There's a lot of cards. I have over 100 cards. It's come up for almost every single reading. And so Manjushri cuts through illusion. And in the health part of the Bagua, that would be cutting through the delusion of, for me personally, the true healers and the wounded healers, the true healers and the wounded healers. And And we really have to rely on our intuition and bodies to stay true to ourselves and not go to people that we don't feel are appropriate to help us. And it's nothing against them. We're just not meant to work together at this time, and it can completely shift and change. But when all of our souls are enduring so much, we really need to be particular about who we surround ourselves with, not just in friends and family and things like that, but in who we trust our soul to heal, right? You wouldn't take your car to just any mechanic and any shyster, and you need to be just as discerning with your soul and the work that it has to do. The fame and reputation part of the Bagua is Kundan, which I was just talking about how that's my kids know that things aren't okay if mom is watching the movie Kundan over and over and over again. And I feel like we are being made to look at, like when my spirit guide was in the basement, I found this binder of photos that I didn't even know that I had, that was from like 17 years ago, 18 years ago, and it was some of my first solo shows. And I had been showing in the 90s as well, but 95 is when my work really got true to me, and then 95 to 2000 is where I really started to develop. You have like as artists, we have these growing breakthroughs, and that was a huge one for me. And I had forgotten how much those times my work was incredible, and yet and I did have luck, but I had to endure a lot of sorrow. And I feel that this time in, well, most people's lives, but definitely I'm on an island that's saturated with artists, and I feel that a lot of us would give up because things are shifting so quickly, and yet art is absolutely imperative for the survival of our souls at this time. And if things aren't going well in your career of art, or if you're really being tested, please just remember to carry on and to kind of, I've written 3 books already, and I've done so much. But I was listening to this podcast yesterday that Matt Blair had, and it was Blake Landis, and he's a tequila maker in California, and he runs this is it a bar? I don't know if it's a bar, I can't remember. This pub type thing called Senko. And he said that success is whether your peers can... success is if you make people feel better for being in your presence. And that's it in a nutshell. If people feel worse for being around you, then maybe you need to have a little look at that, right? And that I have the love of so many outstanding artists around the world is enough for me. Now I need to readjust that so that I'm not just living off love, because we are in a place where we need to figure out the monetary things as well. But I don't know, it was just succinct. It was one of those things that happened, it had all these things that I'm hearing from other people and podcasts and everything are things that I think about all the time anyhow, and things that I already know so well in my being. And I've had to reevaluate so much. I mean, I was such a corporate and not even a corporate, but I really, there was parts of me that really didn't give a shit, and that I am still so Picasso-like in my feeling that my work is important, yet I might only affect one person, and I'm gonna have to be okay with that. And it's that piece of fuck, I might only affect one person has to be enough, right? I've affected a couple, but yeah. And if your kids can like you, and if your kids can come home and have a cup of tea with you, that's all you want. The relationship part is winter retreat. And this is kind of a funny story as well. I have a big commission that I need to finish, and I wanted the people to have something. This is all about, a lot of this reading is about relationship to creativity and expectations and failure, which I have experienced a lot of, and I thought that I was at an age that shit wasn't going to touch me anymore, and it seems to be coming close to me again and again, just to say, if people don't like what you do, are you still going to be okay, or are you going to kick the chair out and hang yourself because you don't have someone's approval? So the winter retreat painting that I did it as a mock-up for a big one, and I was so happy with it, and it affected so many people. And when I went back to talk to the fella that I had done it for, he said, well, I don't like winter, I don't like that at all. So just like, oh my God. And because I've had to endure so much shit with my health, I keep looking at my husband like, do I need to get, like, oh fuck, Ricky, should I just get a job? And he just laughs, because he knows this is the only thing that doesn't make me sick. Painting with toxic paints that none of the levels have shown to be adverse in my blood at all, and yet they're definitely not completely earth friendly. Children and projects part of the Bagua is when God makes you say uncle. And what I know from having a 25, a 23, a 20, and a 17-year-old is that I long for the days where I could get them all into bed at 7 and know exactly where they are and know that they're safe. And those days are gone. Grown-up children mean so much more worry. And I've always been a worrier. And now I'm like, oh my God. You know, my son was in a horrific car accident a few weeks ago. And he had, you know, he'd been hit on his side at 100 kilometers an hour. The truck flipped over. And I found out on Facebook through my news feed. I was just like slowly getting up in the morning. It was like 8 o'clock in the morning. He's like, I'm fine. And I look at the vehicle and I'm like, what the hell? And I also think that what I learned the most this year already is that there is nothing I can do to save my children from their own learning. That each one of them has to find their own inner strength to endure everything, and that this helicopter parenting that we have sort of become, I mean, I'm kind of stuck between helicopter and 70s parenting myself, so I've given them a lot of freedom, and then randomly and weirdly I impose myself. But all we can do is make ourselves okay, and we are not in control of anything around our children. And watching our children suffer and go through their dark nights is probably one of the most hard things I've ever had to sit back and witness. And yeah, it's an exponential thing, you know. The angels and helpful people part of the Bagua is the quiet gardener, and this is Danielle who has, you know, people are, everyone's gifted in such different ways, and Danielle has always had a knack for being able to see astrological patterns around people, and she knows those things before they actually, like, people actually tell her and stuff like that. And I put the dragon head and tail actually affect things, and it's for all of us because we all feel, not all of us, but many of us are in huge transition right now, and we feel like there's no point of reference, and it's for us to find whatever resonates with us, to have that point of reference, to lock into something to make us feel grounded. And I mean, she was a gardener, so earthing's always a good idea as well. The career and life path part of the Bagua was the tree of the eternal optimist, and it is to be able to look and source those things that make us happy to be here and give us hope, and we need to lean into each other's stories so that we can benefit from being in such a mad world right now, that actually, if we looked at it, the goodness outweighs the horror by so much. The inner knowledge and self-realization part of the Bagua is the undercover seer. And this screams to, again, no matter what, how irrational your intuition might seem to other people, to just run with it and absolutely be with it, and eventually you will find that, yes, if you don't listen to your intuition, you'll pay for it. Listen to your intuition and you will be shown later on. In the family and ancestors part of the Bagua, it's a picture of Ricky and I from my first book, Mr. and Mrs. Jones. And, you know, when we have gone through some insurmountable times, and as much as my grown children worry the tar out of me, they are, if I have nothing and I had them, then I've done okay. And I feel like with each of them, the ancestors speak through them. And I don't know whether you find that with your own children or children like nieces and nephews around you, that the wisdom of the ages comes through the kids. And that's what I've had to definitely get over and listen to. In the Wealth and Abundance corner, this was a painting of Leanne, who owns Coffee on the Moon, which if you've lived in the valley, you've definitely been there. And Leanne, I'm not sure whether she started this group, but there is, she's involved with a group where women are getting together, and each one of them is giving $1,000, and then they go out into the community and use it for somebody that needs it. And there's smaller groups now that are using like you could join these groups for $100 or whatever. And I do things like that differently, but we can't consider ourselves rich if there's so much suffering around us. You know, use what you have to give to those around you. Now, the north, south, east, and west part of the Bagua. I myself have, through Aaron's mom passing, it has actually brought up a lot of sorrow around death and passing and letting go and all that kind of thing. And certainly it was represented. This is the tree of perpetual light, which I painted for my friend Christopher, who was an amazing client of mine, for his partner Jody. And after his passing, and you know, a lot of, like, for me, I've lost a lot of brilliant clients have passed, amazing people. So imagine if all your cheerleaders just start dropping, because that's what it has felt like for me for the past little bit. And in the south was my Aunt Monique as Saraswati, one of my biggest champions of all of my life. And on the east is the Markor, so some residual Aries energy. And then the west is the family Todd. And these guys were the epitome of what neighbors should be for us. They've moved to Vancouver years and years ago now, but we still keep in communication with them. And you know, I wish that everyone had neighbors like these people. So the overall view of this reading is the white buffalo baby. And it's because, for myself personally, during these times, it's been a challenge to have faith that our world is going to be fit for the grandchildren. And we just have to constantly go back to center and mine for that hope. And on the eve of my 47th birthday, I just want to extend my gratitude to all the people that cared to even listen to a few minutes of what I intuit, and who are so kind about my artwork, that little bits and feedback are what keep us going. And just such deep love and respect and gratitude. Thank you so much.